So what type of birds are here?
Birds.
What type?
There are many. We have sparrows, all those woodpeckers. There are many.
So it appears that some people like to make themselves unforgettable when they come to Idanre Hill. I'm at the top of Idore Hill, and I've heard that this place used to be a settlement for the people of Idore. Today it is a tourist attraction. Hello and welcome to today's episode of Wo bin ich zu Hause, meine Heimat für Fremde. Simply put, where do I call home? My home country for foreigners. Follow me to Idanre Hills, a proof of ancient settlement in southwest Nigeria. Okay. Ondo State. Oh wow. What I loved about this tour is that as soon as we stepped out of our hotel, Alba Royal Suites Hotel in Akure, you could immediately see how beautiful the environment in Ondo State is. You had rocks right next to people's houses. It was just beautiful to see. We got a car from there at about 9:15 to get to Idanre. We got there at 11. First and foremost thing is to pay your entrance fee, which is about 1,000 naira, and then you need a guide to show you around the settlement. And of course, you start with the great steps. I will let our guide Richard take you through the information and the history behind Idanre Hills, the great steps, and the different sites we will see.
It happens to be the modern way to access the top of the hill these days. In the olden days, the early settlers of this community were living on top of this very hill. They settled up there for good 800 years until 1928 that they decided to come down towards this present place to enjoy social amenities like other places. That's why they decided to come down. And despite they came down in 1928, if they still want to perfect any traditional festival in this community, they still move in there, including their coronation. So that's why they had those great steps. It was initially 460 steps. Yes, in 1954 construction. Then renovation took place in 2006 to be more comfortable in climbing, making it 660.
660.
Yes. So
okay.
There are a lot of things at the top of the hill. For us to be able to get to the top of the hill today, we will be able to see one or two things that will give us fun. Though we can move it around in a day. It's a very large place.
Okay. Wow. What is this tree?
We call it a down tree. I don't know the present name. It's used on the rock.
Wow. Do you know how old it is?
No.
Okay. So at the first resting point, you can actually get some drinks and something to eat. And what's interesting here that I want to point out is our local wine called palm wine. You can also get it here at the resting point. So if you've never had palm wine and you are visiting Idanre, you could actually make it a first of two things, being at Idanre and also having a bottle of cold palm wine at the first resting point. So when you get to this level, you'd have done 225 steps already. And this is the second resting place along the 680. The 682 steps. You will come across 5 total resting places along the 682 steps. So if you feel like taking a break, keep a lookout, an eye open for the resting places. Dangaru Spot used to be the old checkpoint. At this point, all the people wanting to enter the village were controlled to determine their intention. If there were invaders, this is where they'll be diverted. If there were normal visitors, they would be able to continue their journey through the spot and up to the village. Oh, yay! The third resting spot.
362 steps now.
362 steps. Wow. Okay, cool. Okay, let's go. So it's Monday morning, and have you had any other visitors? Okay, so we're apparently the first set of visitors here on a Monday morning, which is not surprising. but it's good for making footage because you don't have people in the background. And we've just reached the fort resting place, right? And how many steps? So that's at 475, the fort resting place. But interestingly enough, you can also see Idanre in the background, the city, and I can only imagine that the view gets better on top. So let's continue. So is this number 5?
Yes.
How many steps more? 80. Wow, okay. Okay. This place was first established as a tourist attraction in 1992. Back then you had just a small cubicle where people used to go and pay to get their tickets. If you're interested in seeing what this place looked like back then, you might be able to find pictures of Idanre in the museum or at the Oba's Palace. There is not yet a museum down here, but our tour guide Richard has been doing this now for 4 years. Before that, he worked as a travel agent in Lagos. So I'm going to talk to him a bit about Idanre, and I'm going to talk to him about generally tourism in Nigeria and what his expectation for tourism in Nigeria is. Hi, Richard. Thank you very much. Please introduce yourself.
My own name is Richard Akimishi from Ondo State here. So I'm one of the tour guides at Idanre Hills. So I wish to know much about tourism and how it goes on in Nigeria and all over the world.
Okay, thank you for that introduction. Richard, I'm concerned first of all about the story of Idora. Can you just give our viewers a brief history? How did Idora come to be and what is it today?
Okay, Idare Hills was mainly created by God, but the first settlers of this present community inherited it due to running scatter because of inter-tribal war. History told us that they were led out of Ile-Ife, which happens to be the originated home of we Yoruba tribe. This man that led them out was known as Olofin.
Olofin.
Yes,
okay.
in which the people called Olofin Aremitan. So history told us that he happens to be the younger brother to Oduduwa, the progenitor of the Yoruba people, that they both came from Upper Egypt, where they call Mecca or Medina today, down to Ile-Ife. Fortunately, his elder brother became the paramount ruler of Ile-Ife. But after the demise of his elder brother Oduduwa at Ile-Ife, he decided to look for his own abode because of the crisis over there. That is why he took out an ancient crown, in which we call Ade. Yes, Iden is a gold-bead crown. So it happens to also be a kind of mysterious crown.
Okay.
So that was what they took out of Ile-Ife that led them to inter-tribal war.
So
yes.
that was the reason for the war, because
Yes.
he took that golden crown.
Yes.
Okay.
So Olofin also is it's a warrior. So it's a great man of those days. So he faced the battle, led Exodus out of Ile-Ife, large number after the death of his brother. So that's why he sojourned about 7 places until he arrived at the back of this very hill. That was where he settled as Ife, Oke people. So it was after the demise of Olofin also at the back of this very hill at Utaja or Jaleja, where they met their Aboriginals who had descended from heaven also. So after the demise of Olofin, your people started kidnapping them because of this very crown also. But this man was already succeeded by the man called Agbo. He had a friend who happens to be a great hunter, Egurin from Nupe land. So Egurin used to explore towards this very summit. So it was one that informed
that this place
Agbo
is...
that he had found a very plateau, a spacious plateau where he can hide his people. That's how the Ife people decided to move to the upper side, which is the top of Idanre Hills today. And they settled up here for good 800 years.
Wow.
Because of this Oyo invaders.
So the city behind us just started in 1928. Yes. Before that, all the people used to live up here.
And all those days, this very hill is 500 meters above sea level. It's a greater height, and there are no steps. But they do come up and go down all those days. They go with a rope called a rope as a means of railings.
Okay.
But in 1954, the federal government sponsored. They created the modern way known as Great Step. Behind us here, we had a tourist chalet built by the Americans in 1954 also.
Okay.
Yes, for
this building?
Yes, this building.
Okay.
The abandoned building. So
Okay,
it
that was
only-
built in
yes,
1954 by the
54 by
Americans.
the Americans.
Thank you for the introduction to Idanre and the city and the hill. What festivals do we have happening here?
So today we have Orosun Festival being celebrated up here. Orosun is the name of a goddess, the wife of Olofin, the progenitor of this very community. She's a goddess of fertility. So she do perfect healings, heal people from their ailments and afflictions up here. So that's why the people always decide to pay homages to her every year as a matter of commemoration of the day she departed from their midst. So during Rosun Festival, the people will come up here, spending like 15 days. Some people will still spend like 21 days before they will get down back to their present settlements. And they do come up here for another festival, but it's not as much as an Orosun Festival, the one of 3 days. During their Yam Festival, they
Okay.
still come up here. So the people will also go to the Bat Cave every year to keep bats.
Where's the Bat Cave?
The Bat Cave is far from here. So
Okay.
they add Bat Cave that they do move towards every February, and that's the first festival they will even start with in the year. So in the February, they prepare themselves after the ride, after some traditional rites, so that led them there to get some bats for another for another rite.
Okay.
In the community, and they will use this bat to pray for all the pregnant women in the community to labor safely. So those are the things that people do to safekeep their people and make them function up to this present moment.
Once you've conquered the 682 steps and you are at the major viewpoint at the Idanre Hills, you have other tourist sites that you can visit. We spent almost the whole day at Idora and we didn't get to see all of them. We started our tour at 11:30, finished at about 4 in the evening, but we still didn't get to see all of them. Of course, the first thing is the 682 steps, the Great Steps, the ancient Owo Palace, the Arun River, the Old Court, the primary school, the tourist chalet, Abogun footprints, the shrines, the unreadable letters, the Ark of Noah, the wonderful Mart, Belfry. So these are some of the things you can see once you are on Idanre Hill, but it is almost impossible to see them in one day, which is why after doing this tour, I would recommend adding a second day to your Idanre trip and getting the most of it. Okay, so we're looking at the first primary school structure that was set up in 1896, and it was set up by the missionaries because they had got good collaboration with the 23rd Kingdom, and this structure has been renovated lately so we can still view it today, but this is a classical primary school building from back then. Wow, look at the trunk, is still here. Massive. Wow. I wonder how old this tree was. But the trunk is still going on, so I'm just following the trunk along. You can see it behind that. Oh my God. That was a massive tree. I just gave up the ghost.
Community residents.
Okay, but people don't live in it anymore.
So we doing the traditional festival they do can.
Okay.
This is cut of law in the olden days.
Wow.
Where they settle their disputes.
Ah.
This is the cut of law setup. That's the dock for the accused person.
Okay.
These are seats for the witnesses.
Okay, and where does the judge stay?
Here will be arranged for the judge.
Okay.
So it's only the present king of Idanre can go onto the hip. Any other person is forbidden.
Okay. Okay.
And this is the market square.
Uh-huh.
Where they do their trade by battle. If the king die, community, they have to land him in straight into this building.
Okay.
Before taking to the final town.
We've just reached the old settlement that used to be up here. We saw the school, the primary school that was built in 1896, and now we've just seen the courthouse where cases were dealt with. The house we just passed by is where the king is laid to rest for the first time to start the funeral rites. There's also a sacred ground. It's a bit overgrown right now, which is basically where the king also wears the crown that he took from Ileife back in the days. And on that piece of land, only the king is allowed to stand on it. This festival is held once a year in December, the Idanre, and that's where the king wears the crown that was taken from Ileife. Back here are all the buildings, I believe will probably be the local settlements, but as soon as we get closer, we'll find out what those buildings are. But there are more buildings from the ancient settlement that used to be up here, and they lived approximately 800 years up here till the missionaries came and they moved down into the city of Idanre as we saw it from the other view. Okay, so let's check it out.
This is where the perfect Akpon festival.
Which festival?
Akpon.
Akpon. Okay.
That's the major festival they perfect before any matrimonial activity in this community.
This is Ashokobe, right? This is Ashokobe, which has to do with matrimonial rites. So any male child of this community that cannot lift this rock up to the chest level is not permitted to get married. Of course, these rites are not practiced any longer, but we have this rock here representing what you have to do in the ancient community to prove that you are ready and ripe for marriage. So guys, if you feel you want to marry a girl from this community, well, come up here and lift up the stone to your chest and prove that you are ready to get married to a girl from Idora. Otherwise, forget it. So this is Arun River. Oh my God, look at how clear it is. I've talked about that I don't understand why the bodies of water we have are so not clear. But I have to say, this time around, this is crystal clear. You can see every stone. You can see, wow. And this is drinking water?
Yes.
So this is also drinking water. Wow. Wow. Okay. This is the real deal. Okay. Oh, wow. Okay, let's get that. Yeah. Wow. Okay. I'm going to stop at one or two of them, and if you can tell us who they are, that would be great. Do they?
Yeah, those are none of the old place.
Ah.
That the wood portion of the old place.
Okay.
They carve them to beautify the environment, not for worshiping.
Ah, okay. So these are not like gods or something.
It's just to beautify the environment, they serve as pillar. And that's the king's throne.
So we are standing in the courtyard of the ancient palace. This structure here is over 500 years old, and the figure we just saw are wooden sculptures that were made by the slaves to beautify the courtyard. They're not gods, but they're traditional figures. Some of them are female, you can tell by the breasts, and some of them have certain instruments in their hands, which would probably represent their trade or what they do. What we have behind me here is where the Oba's throne,
Attic for ventilation.
the attic for ventilation, or where the king's throne is. And what's also interesting here is that every year they place a cow skull in this area to show how many years the king has ruled. So if we come a bit closer, we can see the skulls that have been placed into, and there are quite a number of them that have been placed into there to represent the number of years the king has been ruling. So this is a tradition maintained by the people of Idanre. And like I mentioned, that is another sculpture with breasts, so it's a female figure, and there up there is probably a male figure. So these are some of the things you can get introduced into by doing the tour of the ancient palace.
You can go and stay on top of that place to have the kitchen area.
That's,
You can get closer to that.
yeah? Okay, how? That way, okay. Okay, so let's go to that lookout point to get a view of the place of the early settlers of Idanre. Our final stop on this tour was the lookout point, where we get to have an overview of the old settlement right next to a rock, perched beautifully on another rock. After this, we started to make our way down towards the entrance point. I do hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much for watching. Yours truly, Liesel81.